Did you hear what Goldberg said about Bret Hart and the kick?
I've heard it a million times, but what did he say?
Well, he said he knew it was coming and he told him to watch it. But I think, from what I understand, maybe I heard it wrong. He was, Bret was confused over what he said. It was either watch it or duck it. He didn't do either one because he ate it.
Hmm.
That's what he did. But Goldberg blames it on Bret.
Well, of course he
He
would.
said,
It was Goldberg's fault. Bret put his hand up to block it, and Goldberg kicked through it. You actually see Bret put his hand up, and then just his foot just go and still kicks him. And the fact is that Goldberg already probably helped concuss Bret earlier in that match, because Bret's trying to do this. At the time, he did a figure four leg lock, but he'd somehow employed the ring post. So he'd wrap. So basically, you know what the move is anyway. And Goldberg is supposed to hold on to his leg.
I invented it.
Good. I know you didn't. But so anyway, Goldberg's supposed to hold on to Bret's leg, right? So otherwise, it will just fall apart because it needs the cooperation of both people. And Goldberg didn't. So instead of Bret sort of having his leg supported when he fell back, he just fell back and hit his head on the floor. So he was already concussed from that point. So he was probably confused anyway. And
So
then watch the kick can mean anything.
So he got nailed twice in that match.
Yeah, at least.
Wow. Well, Goldberg was talking about it like, hey, it's not my fault. He has to take a little bit of the blame. I would blame the booker. That's where I would go to the booker right then and say, if you ever book me with him again, I'd pull a Triple H on him. I'd say, I'm walking out. So but if I'd have went up and told them that, I said, if you ever book me against Goldberg again, I'm walking out. They would call another match that night that I had to go in the ring against Goldberg. They said, well, you said you'd quit. I said, oh, well, but not tonight. Not no. I'll do it tonight, but don't you do it again. No, they'd have worn me out with him.
Do you want to watch the video? Well, watch the video. Why don't we watch the video and then you can determine for yourself?
Can we watch the video?
Yeah, one sec. Okay, I found the video, but it's orientated weirdly. It's really annoying. But anyway, here we go. I'll replay it as many times as you want.
God.
Here's the thing, because the rings are smaller as well, so it's like if he just said watch the kick and Goldberg stood right in the middle of the ring, it doesn't really give Bret a lot of time to react, but he still does. He still puts his hand
Let's
up.
see that. Let's see that again. Slow-mo this, can you?
I can't slow-mo, I'm sorry.
Watch this follow through on this kick. He got a. Okay. You see the center of the ring, right? He's more toward the ropes he come off of.
Yeah.
You need to be back on the back at least, I don't know, 3 feet. He's too close. See, the center of the ring means a lot because that gives the time. The guy he would have given Bret more time, but see, he's hurrying this kick because he's coming quicker because he had a shorter distance to travel. I'm not trying to make it complicated, but Bret ends up getting a concussion out of this, and he right here, as soon as it kicks, he's gone. He's out. And let's see it one more time.
The referee's sort of in the way as well there.
Yeah.
Thing is, what does watch the kick mean to you in that short space of time? I mean, that could be a kick to the gut. That could be a kick anywhere, couldn't it?
Well, I would, if he didn't want to take it, he should have grabbed on and said, let's don't do that here. Because the kick, he delivered a devastating kick. It looked like it knocked your head off. What was the finish in this match?
I can't even remember. No one even remembers. This is late 1999 when practically no one was buying the pay-per-views. But Bret won. I know Bret won. I think this... I can't remember. I think the next night, Bret ends up reforming the NWO. And then 2 weeks later, he had to retire due to this kick and then wrestling and getting multiple concussion syndrome after it. Because back in... Obviously, you'll know this. You know, before the late 2000s, a concussion was just something that you just shook off and carried on with, for the most part.
I've had a lot. I don't know how many I've had, but they weren't really ever designated as a concussion because we didn't have doctors around. You know, a lot of times, and I remember getting a concussion and walking around. One of the first concussions, I'm thinking something now. One of the first concussions I remember was in Savannah, Georgia. And I was working against Ted Oates, and our heads collided, knocked us both out. And when I went down and when I came up, I didn't even know where I was. I didn't even know I was even in a match because they had really strong ring lights, and it was just dark out there. And I looked around and said, I didn't even know where I was. So that's one of the bad things about a concussion. And finally, and Ted, he told me later he was knocked out too. So here you got two guys coming up because our heads really collided hard. So it knocked him out too. We didn't know what to do. So about a minute, we were just walking around the ring saying, and I didn't even know I was even in a wrestling match. That sounds strange. But, you know, concussions, they have a way of separating you from what's really going on, from life, really. And you'll come back, maybe. But concussion is a bad thing. But in Bret's case there, he blames Goldberg, and I guess Goldberg is to blame, I guess.
What did Goldberg say? Did he say that it wasn't 100% his fault? I'm pretty sure it was.
Well, the way I look at it, Goldberg was green. So you got to watch the guys with not a lot of experience. Who called watch the kick? Goldberg?
Yeah.
See, Goldberg shouldn't have been calling anything. I'm not saying it's Bret's fault. It's unfortunate that it happened. But Goldberg, he had that one good kick. So quite naturally, he would want to put it in every chance he got. But if I was in that match with Bret, I wouldn't have Goldberg call anything because I'm the general in the match. So he's going to call the play that I call and run it because it's say in football, it's like the tight end calling a play because the quarterback's supposed to call the play. And in this match, Bret was the quarterback, and maybe it just got out of hand, and maybe it's one of those things that happens. But I would say Bret, if he had to do it over, would have Goldberg just shut up and let me call it.
So, just to reiterate, Goldberg said it wasn't my fault, basically, from what you heard.
And I'm not taking his side, but in a way, he does have a point because he is greener. He was green. How long had he been in the business at that point?
Started training. Okay, forget about the training, but he debuted late
under 2 years.
Just over.
Well, and he never had any long matches. See, Goldberg had a match that he just kind of did over and over and over and over. They very seldom went more than 5 minutes. But this match here with Bret, I bet they wanted him to go at least 10, which is out of his orbit. Tell you the truth, it's out of his wheelhouse because Goldberg wasn't a long match guy.
I was going to tell you how long the match was. In fact, it was 12 minutes and 7 seconds. So he had one of the longest of Goldberg's career, in fact.
Yeah, and it was out of his range.
So,
I'm not saying I don't want this to be misunderstood. I don't want headlines pop up. Dutch says that Bret Hart is to blame for his own, concussion. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that Bret should have not have allowed Goldberg to call anything, because now, and when he called the kick, he's all pumped up anyway. And when you get a guy 260 and, the adrenaline's flowing, and he didn't mean to do it, I'm sure, but it's unfortunate that it happened, but I don't think it's anybody's fault, to tell you the truth.
No, I think it's Goldberg's
fault. You're not agreeing with me, are you?
Well, no, I completely blame Goldberg. But I know what you mean with Bret, though. I mean, I wonder what the dynamic was where Bret started listening to what Goldberg was saying, because I don't know, maybe Goldberg got too much responsibility because he was the champion.
In Bret's defense, he was trying to help Bill. He said, okay, I'll have him feel a part of this match. I'll have him call something. But when I could tell you by the way he shot him off, it was a small ring anyway. And Goldberg, if you want to pick it apart, part by part, he was, say, here's the center of the ring and here's the ropes. Well, Goldberg was here. Already coming off, he doesn't have the normal space, and he had to hurry his kick because he was there quicker than he would have been if he'd been in the center of the ring. So it's one of those moves, and I'm going to tell you, you could be as finessed as you can be. Sometimes in a ring, you got all that muscle mass and weight moving. Very easy to get hurt. Really is.